Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Today's guest is going to be a pretty interesting one, but before we jump into that, we've got a couple things that I wanted to touch base with you guys on. So I actually, for the last 10, 12 days, I haven't been online or anything like that, but that's because I've been working super hard on some merch for you guys. So we actually have rolling papers now, king size rolling papers. You can pick them up at HVXgoat.com. 19 plus, of course. And then a lot of you guys were asking about stickers. So there you go. Some new stickers. And first one to send me their address tonight, just DM me your address on Instagram, give you a free pack of stickers. But yeah, let's jump into this interview. So today's guest is a well-known rider in the BMX community. He's known for his love of blunts and Fiji water. And he has some of the best Tbogs in the game, and his no-foot cans are dialed as fuck. He had one of the coolest product lines ever to be released, that being the Beverage frame and seat. I'm super stoked to be speaking with the one and only Tony Malouf. Tony, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm good, Cam. What's going on?
Not too much. So typically on this show, the way we start things out is we go all the way back to when you first started riding. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into BMX?
Fuck. It's actually kind of easy to go back there because I'm in my hometown right now during quarantine. And I passed by, like, probably the first place I ever got, like, a scar on my BMX bike. So I used to just ride my bike to the pool or, like, to a buddy's house and something like that. But eventually, you just start hitting the curb cuts and you start jumping. And then I found out that there was, like, a little trail spot near where I grew up, which at the time we called them the mud jumps. And they were fucking dope. I mean, they just, like, the only thing I can really compare it to because of how, like, overly glamorous it seemed to me at the time, it was like rocket power. I just was like, holy fuck, like older kids, cool kids, chain wallets. Like, in the 90s, fashion was like way different, but like if you had big baggy jeans and you were like jumping BMX, like you looked cool as fuck. Backwards hat. And I just didn't know where I was at, and we just started jumping all these jumps, and I got a little bit overzealous one day, and I went OTB for the very first time. A guy got fucked up. I got scars on my wrist like from that day, and I was probably 8 years old.
Damn, yeah, that is like, I feel like one of the first times that I went OTB, I also got a scar. I'm pretty sure it's still there too. It's on my back, so it's hard to tell, but fuck, man, that is like, when I started, I was in a small town, so like same sort of thing, ride my bike to the pool every day in the summer, and then just slowly got into jumping it and whatnot.
Yeah, it's funny because I do remember I actually like falling really bad once, like riding to the pool because I had my towel over my shoulder and I fucking like did something and it fell off and it got sucked into my front wheel.
Oh my god, that'd be the fucking worst.
So that's really like the first time I went OTB, but I wasn't really like doing a trick. It was just like a fucking blooper.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, my buddy and I, we were out riding the other day just looking for new spots, and he fucking goes to do like a manual across the crosswalk, sets his front wheel down, and then he goes to hop up the curb. And like the dude has been riding BMX for close to 15 years, but just like one of those moments where, you're really not paying attention, pulls up the front wheel to go hop up the curb, goes to hop, just hits his back tire off the curb and fucking OTB like so hard on the middle of the sidewalk. There's like 100 people in cars just like pointing and laughing. I felt so bad, but like it was such a crazy fucking bail out of the blue too.
Oh yeah, it usually happens on the really silly stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Like just so ridiculous.
Yeah, where are you at in Canada?
So I'm actually about an hour from Toronto area in Kitchener-Waterloo. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kitchener-Waterloo or anything, but
Yeah, I've heard of, but never been.
yeah, a lot of pros actually kind of grew up around here. So like James Steele, another BSD pro, Jason Teets. He was grew up in Cambridge, which is like 15 minutes from here. Corey Walsh grew up around here. John Heaton, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a lot of bigger names like in this area, which is really cool. I actually just wrote an article on my website about like Kitchener BMX and the history of it and like just the craziest shit, like Matt Hoffman pulled the 900 in Kitchener. A lot of clips from the Little Devil video Seek and Destroy were filmed in Kitchener. It's just pretty cool to see like the history.
Yeah, no, that's very cool, man. I was kind of like winding up to say like, you reached out to do the podcast and all, but like I hadn't known if we like met or not.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I don't
Toronto,
think so.
and I think 2009, maybe one of the last like Toronto jams, not the Metro jam, but the later Toronto jams.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever met you. I'm only 23. I just got into riding like, 10 years ago. So at that time, I was still living in like a small town and everything. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So let's jump back into, more stuff about you. Do you remember the first BMX bike that you ever owned? Like the first real BMX?
Yeah, I mean, I had a Robinson that was passed down to me from my brother. It was like a hand-me-down, and that was just like the first 20-inch bike that I owned. But past that, the first bike that I remember like seeking and was able to talk my parents into buying for me was a GT Vertigo. And I told this story actually earlier today to someone where I was like, I didn't know much about BMX pros until I could walk into a bike shop and actually put my hands on like a catalog. And I got like a GT catalog, and it was like Mike Parente and Lord Volker just fucking ripping like the old school guys. And I would never been exposed to anything like that. So like I used to put those pictures on my wall, like the photo of the rider and the bike, and just like hope that one day I could get the bike. And then one day I got the GT Vertigo. And that was the first BMX bike I ever got.
That's so crazy. I feel like Brian Chikinski, I had him on last week. He was saying that he had a GT Vertigo to start out, I believe, actually.
Yeah, GT was like it was a crazy time because like I live in a town in the northwest suburbs of Chicago where like we have like a crazy 4th of July festival once a year. And at one point I had already been like obsessed with BMX, and we had the GT team like came through and did like a box jump show at our like 4th of July festival. And it was like Dave Volker and all those dudes that I just mentioned. And so I was like real attentive and was like front and center, just, as close as I could get to see it. And I got picked out to do like the bunny hop challenge. When they like line, like they like put kids on the ground and bunny hop them.
Yeah.
And I was like called out to do that. I was the last kid in the row. And it's so funny because I've seen Dave and told him this story since then. But this was like, I was a child, right? And they put me at the very end. They put this hat on my stomach, and he was meant to bunny hop like 8 kids, which seems ridiculous by today's standards. But he was going to tap the hat off my stomach, and I got scared, and I held it there at the last second. And he tapped it. Like, he bunny hopped all of us and tapped the hat, and I held it there because I got scared. And he came back, and he looked me dead in the eyes. And I mean, dude, his face was like fucking leather. Like he didn't look that good. But he was just like, don't fucking hold the hat. And the next time he came around, he tapped the hat off me, and I was still scared shitless. But like, fuck, that was like a very surreal moment in time because like I had Lord Volker and Dead Sailor on VHS. And like played those movies. You might not even be familiar with those since you're 23, but those are like some old ass videos that we basically burnt out to the point where they wouldn't even work anymore.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of them. Yeah, that's fucking crazy, man. It's so cool to me that like, there was always box jump shows and shit. Like there really isn't around here, which kind of sucks. Like don't get me wrong, there's definitely like, the crazy crew, which is like a Ontario based like crew, and then also a lot of the Cirque du Soleil guys that were doing that kind of stuff, they were actually from around here, or like, Montreal, that area. Um but I don't know, I feel like if I was a younger kid and I actually got to witness that kind of stuff, it would have been so fucking cool. Like I remember, the first real day that I got really hooked on BMX, my dad took me to this random BMX jam that was happening, and just like going to that, and it was just an amateur event. It wasn't even like pros or anything like that. Just going to that was insane. Like it really opened my eyes to BMX.
Oh, absolutely. Like, are you familiar with Scrap Skate Park?
I think I've heard of it. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, so you're familiar with props, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So what I'm to understand, because I wasn't really around when it all was conceived, but like props kind of started under the vert ramp that was at Scrap, which is a indoor skate park that was in Hoffman Estates, northwest suburbs of Chicago, very close to where I grew up. And although it was still like a 20, 30-minute drive, that's like, to answer your question in depth from earlier, that's like really where it all began. Like once I kind of got like a little taste, then it was like, oh, there's a skate park, you guys can go ride in the winter when it's cold. And then like we'd go there. And like my parents were kind of like, we know where that is. That's like, they had soccer fields in there too, where we used to play like indoor soccer. And so one day I got like invited to a friend's birthday party to go to the skate park. And little to me, I had no idea that it was such a famous skate park. I was just there for a birthday party, but like all the skaters sucked and all the fucking BMXers were like legit, like advanced. Like most of them lived in like Greenville half the year. There's like Koji Kraft, Jimmy Walker, Jamie Spritzer. I mean, like everybody's pro. So like the skaters didn't look cool and the BMXers were just like doing all this shit. But this was in the era of like everybody had front and back brakes, wore pegs, shin guards, knee pads, full face. So like that was essentially like the time that I got sucked into it. But once I stepped foot into that place, like it was a done deal. Like I was just entered and saw a world that I'd never seen before, and it gave me butterflies, but it also just like made me so excited. Like it's all I wanted to do all day. And then when we were on our way there, I just got so fucking nervous. And I don't know, man. It only took like a couple of years before a couple guys took me under their wing. And then like 10, 15 years later, I found out that it was like a very influential, like pivotal point / region, Illinois and like the Midwest for that time, was just like very influential for BMX. And I had no idea that that's what I was involved in until, I came out of it.
Wow, that's crazy, man. And like to hear that Jamie Spricer was one of the people that was riding there was insane. Like he is just unreal. Like even to today's standards, A lot of those props guys, like they still blow my mind anytime that I watch like a props video of any kind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy because like those are the guys that first started to mentor me, and at the time it just felt like, oh, I'm getting accepted by like the older guys, and then as I got older and got more knowledgeable, I was like, holy shit, like damn, that was like a really cool time in BMX. Like I don't think there's going to be any time soon where indoor BMX riding is going to be like the most popular form,
No, absolutely. I agree with you. It's a lot of those videos, like, some of the best memories that I have from actual BMX videos and just sitting there and watching them is like props road fools and just seeing dudes destroy these indoor parks. Like, it's just so cool because a lot of those indoor parks, they're kind of crammed. They have a lot of stuff in like different areas and the transfers are always insane. I forget who it is and I feel terrible about it, but like, there's this clip from one of the Road Fools videos of a guy doing a, gap out of a bank, hand plant on like a back railing into a half pipe, and then he hand plants out of that back into the bank. Just insane. I can't remember what video that is from or what guy, because I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but like that clip always really stood out to me.
I think that's Brandon Harris,
I
but I'm
think you're
not sure.
right. I think you are right.
Yeah, that's the homie. Brandon Harris, I think he just hand plants out of a bank and does like the back rail into a mini, and that's that. But
Yeah.
it's a road full of like that happens for sure.
Yeah, just so fucking crazy, man. You never see that kind of stuff with park riding today, you know? I was talking to Brian about this last time I was doing the show, and just, with him, he's doing a lot of the like judging for all of the UCI stuff right now. And that was something that we kind of talked about, was the fact that like a lot of park riding now is really based on like how difficult you can make it rather than focusing on style and like doing stuff that's original. Like, and it's not to say that, it's not to downplay the riding that those guys do, but like, I don't know, it's cool to see that like, you know, the dudes during like Road Fools and Props days were doing a lot more creative shit than like, I don't know, the average, 360 triple bar and stuff like that. Like, it's definitely they both hold their own place in BMX. I guess I just wish I saw more people doing like more original park riding nowadays.
Yeah, it's certainly changed in the sense of like, it's more run oriented now, where as opposed to where like somebody could really devote like their entire run to like, hey, I'm just going to land this one trick. And then the contest structure kind of changed into like, now there's street, now there's park, and then there's also best trick. So, there's like, it's funny, but like sometimes you go somewhere and there's a guy that won't even participate in anything, but then he'll just do best trick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of interesting how like that all changed, because that guy knows his place where he's like, I'm not going to fucking even get close to any of that, but I might have something that can like, just one trick can get all the attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, even you saying that, one name from, around here that really pops in my mind is Stephen Moxley. Like a couple of years ago at X Jam, before they canceled it and stopped doing it, there's this big quarter and there's like a back rail probably like 7 feet away from it. And Moxley does like gap tail whip Fufanu on this back railing to back in. And it's like he does it over a sub box to the back rail and then in. And like the rest of his runs were definitely good, but like you could tell that he was there for best trick and not like the rest of the competition.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, Moxley's insane. That clip went huge too. Like I think most like, mainstream BMX outlets definitely shared the shit out of that. Like I remember seeing a clip that somebody had posted, and I am like down by the fence, fucking, losing my mind over that, because it was just insane to see in person.
Oh yeah, that's dope. I feel like I recall that, but also I have like a sense that brakes might be like making a strange comeback outside of the park realm.
Yeah, I've actually I've been running brakes for almost 6 years now, like full gyro setup, and I mainly ride street. Like I consider myself more as a all around rider than like just specifically street and stuff like that. But I've filmed like 2 full-length videos in the last 8 years, done all this stuff, had full part sections in them, like with mainly street riding. And I don't know. I love them, man. It's really cool to see that brakes are making a comeback. And I don't know about like, where you are, but around here, a lot of people are starting to put front brakes on.
Damn, that's cool. Well, they obviously already have back brakes, right?
No, my buddy Nick, he actually has been riding brakeless for years. Just picked up a set of front brakes, no back brakes.
No shit. That's funny.
It's fucking weird, eh?
Yeah, it's a little bit more rare, but you do see those guys that just rock the front brake, and I can dig it. I've never been like much of a geometry guy to where like fork or like head tube geometry and all that stuff. Like I don't do nose wheelies and shit like that. So like when it comes to like front brakes and all that stuff, like I can't do front brakes or front wheel stuff if I don't put my foot in there, or I need brakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm either doing a foot jam or I'm doing a nose pick with brakes. Like I can't nose wheelie. So like I've never been like a geometry guy, but I have been thinking about putting brakes back on just simply to like open up a little bit of it gets stale after a minute. Like I think I might just do a cassette and brakes for a minute to just take it back.
Yeah, absolutely. I ride I have like, one of the weirdest fucking bike setups because I ride a Profile Elite but with 4 pegs, brakes, like gyro, and like mainly just street stuff. But I can't do a coaster. I've tried it before and it's just not right for me. I think it's one of those things that really blows my mind because a lot of bikes now come with coasters on them. That's like a normal complete bike thing. Like kids that are getting into BMX are getting coasters on their first bike.
Yeah, fucking Charles Littlejohn. You familiar with him?
Oh yeah.
I don't think he told me once, whether it's bullshit or not. He said he's never ridden a cassette in his life.
Wow, that's fucking crazy. I guess
He
coasters
was,
do date back pretty far. Like if you're looking at some of the Odyssey 12 tooths and stuff like that, like they went back to, late 90s, I think.
yeah, like a lot of these kids now, you got to think about some of the kids that were on coasters like 8 years ago who are influential now. A kid that started riding 4 years ago could be looking up to like Ethan Corriere, Jacob Cable type, like any of those common kids that are pushing shit now. They all were on coasters when they got noticed. So anybody that looks up to them probably has not had a cassette up.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethan is like one of the most unreal people with a coaster. He's got such a great style and like, we did a episode a couple weeks ago and I was pretty nervous going into it cuz he's a pretty big name in BMX, especially right now and like, it was super awesome. Like the second that I started talking to him, we went like 3.5 hours of just chatting and like I don't know, it's just sometimes you get into a conversation like that and it was just really fucking cool, really good guy, honestly.
Oh yeah, he's the best. I hit him up and I was like, hey, I saw you did it. I was like, was it good? And he said, yeah, it was funny. He's like, I might have gotten some trouble.
Oh
he might
fuck.
have, I'm gonna pause right there. But yeah, no, all those kids are cool, man. When I moved to California, it was like really interesting to like meet that whole set of kids that I have only got to like watch on the internet, and then you like meet them, and like most of them are all like really good friends of mine now, and I look back at the time when I was like real skeptical, like, oh, what are these kids really are about? Like, what are their motives, and it's like they're all just like us, man. They're just bike riders. They're just trying to have fun. They're just in a different place, and they do it their way, and it's like. It's really cool to know that like a crew, just like the common crew, can like basically develop anywhere as long as you just have some friends and you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one of the cool things, like over the last couple weeks, I really focused on, interviewing a lot of the dudes from Common Crew. In fact, this weekend we've got Eddie coming on as well. And just watching like Monster Mash and those videos, it's insane to see that like those dudes were all just regular kids that like just loved BMX. And it's like really cool to see that a couple years later they're all the biggest names in BMX.
Absolutely, and it's funny because when I think about what they look up to, because I've hung out with I worked with Ethan for 2 years when I was at Fit, and they were like obsessed with like Dak and like all that SoCal like riding. And I was always kind of like, really? Nothing against them. I loved all that. But like, like at the time, we were kind of like peers. It's like Dak and Nathan and like me and Miles and like a lot of people were just like doing their own thing at the same time, but just in different areas, different ways. You had like E-Man and Boy, and you just had like people in the East Coast. Like everybody, like that was really like when like. And I'll use Dak as an example because he's probably still the most consistent and most successful. But like when that all started, that was like a new wave of like BMX moving in like a very strong direction of just in terms of like region, style, like everything all of a sudden became real accepted, whether it was like park, BMX, street, 4-piece bars, metal pegs, plastic pegs, coasters, you know, all of a sudden like a lot of things opened up and like this weird gap. And, you know, everybody who was involved in it was probably just too focused to even like realize what they were a part of. But that essentially is what provoked where we're at now with the short back ends and hub guards and all this shit and where we got now. It's pretty surreal to look back on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one of the things that's so like, I don't know, it just seems so weird to me whenever I run into somebody that doesn't run like, you know, a short back end on a frame, or like they run 2 pegs, you know, not 4. I don't know why it's so weird to me. It shouldn't be, but like it's crazy to see that like, you know, only a couple of years ago, dudes were riding brakeless with 2 pegs and a cassette. And then, you know, before that, it's dudes with full brake setups, knee pads, helmets, you know, mainly park riding. And, you know, you mentioned stuff about like Dakota Roche as well as Nathan Williams. In that article that I was mentioning earlier, they actually came to Kitchener for a Primo video. It's the Primo Strange Crew video. And it's like literally the biggest names in BMX all when they were kind of starting out, you know? Like Corey Martinez, fucking Dakota Roche, Dan Lacey, Nathan Williams, Tony Nair. All those guys like riding all of these spots. And I got to tell you, man, that was 12, 13 years ago. All of those clips still are literally probably the best things that have ever been filmed in Kitchener. Like, just blows my mind. And like, what's even crazier is seeing this huge 16 stair set that like, you know, I really stressed on just jumping down it. And I managed to do it. And then like a couple months later, I find this video and Nathan Williams did an overpegs on the rail, but at the bottom of the rail, there's a pole sticking straight up. So like, if you don't get that front peg on, you're going right to the bottom on top of that pole. And he managed to fucking pull it perfectly, which, you know, probably first try. Like, there's no second try on that. I'd love to get him on the show and ask him about that, because, like, that clip was fucking insane. But, like, you know, just as you were mentioning, like, those guys all were some of the biggest names. And, like, you know, I think that, you know, I don't know, we're probably going to see Ethan and, you know, Denham and all those guys maybe become, like, you know, Dakota Roche and Nathan Williams, like those kind of people in a couple of years, or at least like people look up to them in that way.
Oh yeah, that's what I hope for, to be fair, because I think that the companies that back them, like Denham just got a signature frame. That's BSD. You know, I've been there, and like that's similar to like, you know, I wasn't really that big a name when I got my frame, and Grant took a chance to just say like, hey, if some people are into them, then we can get other people on board. And like a lot of people are into Denham, and rightfully so. And I hope that all that works out, because he's the fucking truth. And they say the truth hurts.
Oh man. Yeah, Denham's the fucking man, dude. And that frame is insane. Like, it looks so good. That green color is fucking dope. I love that.
Yeah, BSD is fucking, like, you know, it's something I've always kept a close eye on since I left. And Dave Sowerby, like, hats off to him. He does all those graphics. I mean, they pull in other graphic designers to do some of the illustrations and stuff. But I'm pretty sure that he puts all that stuff together and does the tech packs. And they always come out so good, and all the social marketing with it and the videos. Like, BSD is one of my favorite brands to just pay attention to, and I love everybody that's involved with them. There's no bad blood ever since I left, so I just like to see them prosper.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we talk a little bit about how you got hooked up with BSD? How many years ago was that?
Shit. That actually, I'd want to say it was around like 2000. No, fuck, that was Sputnik. Would have been like 2010.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably like 10 years ago, because your frames released in 2014, right? Like the first lineup of those frames.
Yeah, that'd actually be a harder question for me to answer because I'm not even sure how long it took for us to do that. But there was like a good while where I just rode for BSD way before any of like the team managing shit. And to answer your question is I was introduced to BSD through Chad DeGroot, who is my current team manager at UGP. And I had recently been cut from Sputnik, and I was just like, I got a frame from Kaczynski, who he had a signature frame at DK at the time. So I just like reached out and said, hey, do you think I can get a frame? And he said, sure, no problem. And Chad DeGroot was like, wait, you're just riding like some random bike? Like you should get sponsored. And he reached out to Grant. And he was basically like, hey, this is Grant from BSD. Like he's in Scotland. Like he's a wild man like you. Like he's not going to get the fuck. Like he just wants to have fun. Like you should link up with him. And when I first spoke to Grant on the phone, I could hardly understand him. Like I couldn't really take in the Scottish dialect. So like the first couple calls were like really tough, but fast forward to going there and having like a 7-year relationship with them, like fuck man, I basically speak Scottish. So it was a fun time, man. Like we did have a great relationship, you know. It's just like things run its course, and it just that's how it is. 7 years. It was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we talk a little bit about how the Beverage line of parts came along? Like, you know, before we jump into that, I had the first Beverage frame that I got from a good buddy of mine, Harvester Bikes, located in Toronto. He gave me a ridiculous deal on it because I was working at a bike shop, and they, at the time, one of the distributors that was in Canada, 10-Pack, that was the only BMX distributor that they had. 10-Pack had just closed down, so there was no BMX stuff that I could get except for Haro and Premium. And at the time, I just really didn't like the longer chainstay that those frames had, and I just really wasn't stoked on it. So I bought a frame from Harvester, and the shop ended up firing me because I didn't buy a frame through them. And, probably a couple other reasons too. At the time, I was just a dumb fucking, 17-year-old kid working at a job like that. And I don't know, I picked up that frame from Harvester for a ridiculous deal, and that was one of the best frames that I'd ever ridden. Like literally, the geometry was amazing. The graphics on it were awesome. The first one that I picked up was the root beer one, I guess it would be like the black, but it was like a trans black color. It was awesome. I love that frame.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then I ended up, getting a second one. I picked up the Clearwater one when that one came out, and that frame was one of the longest lasting frames that I had ever had. And at that time, those two BSD frames were the only frames that I didn't really break. Like all frames break at some point, but it took me a long time to get to that point. Whereas like every other frame that I had ridden would be snapped in 9 months or like cracked, and they were all pro model frames before that too. Like, it's not to say that, I don't know. I think at that time, like I definitely wasn't, as clean of a rider as I am now, but.
Yeah. And I mean, things are liable to break, it's just materials that, are composited, made from the planet. So, there's going to be errors, but, I mean, first off, thanks for buying 2 of my frames. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I think by the time we made the water frame, that would have been a V2, and we changed the entire diameter of the tubing, and everything would have changed. Like the welding would have been stronger, so that makes sense that it lasted longer than the first. That frame came about by again, Grant Smith took a lot of faith into me when we started like building an American team. I was the first American rider to ride for BSD. So I have always kind of been like, you know, somewhat of like a natural leader, but at the same time, like I'm not going at shit alone. Like I'm not as egotistical to think that I don't need partners, you know? So I was like, hey, let's get a team going. I want people to like spread the word over here. So that naturally kind of turned into like a team manager position, to where we eventually brought on like David Grant, brought on Reed Stark. I could name so many people that we like tried to even get on the team before that. That would probably blow your mind, but it's too long of a conversation. So eventually we ended up with this team that just ended up being super perfect. And, you know, I wasn't really ready to release like a frame of my own without having somebody else have a frame, basically because of partial ego, partial insecurity. And that's why like David Grant got the Raider frame, and we kind of dropped them along like the same time. They might have been like one or two drops away, but I remember just sitting in the airport with a drawing pad. I wrote pages and pages and pages of concepts of what the frame could be called. I mean, there was even a VX concept frame 10 years ago, or what might have been 7 years ago, and now they just did one, which is very funny. And I'm getting one next week. But did you see that, the VX frame?
Yeah, it looks awesome, man. I was actually really surprised that, like, you know, they dropped that finally, because I had heard rumors of them doing it. And, like, obviously with the Alex frame, it being the ALVX, you would assume that they would have dropped it, like, beforehand. But that's pretty cool that you actually kind of came up with that concept. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's really, like, you know, it was on my drawing board. I don't know if it really ever made it over to them. But the reason I canceled it at the time, because I was just like, that's way too cliche. You know, like at the time, everything really hadn't transitioned that firmly into HD. And I was still shooting a lot of VX stuff. So I was like, making a VX frame would just be like, I don't know, maybe like too niche. You know, how many kids are really going to buy a VX bike? But now you see that finished product. I mean, again, hats off to BSD and Dave Sowerby. Like that's all them, and it looks fucking beautiful. Like I'm getting one. So, but yeah, the Beverage just came because I landed on like a good name that fit with like the BSD Beverage, the way it sounded, the way it came out. We had a lot of like room to work with it. I was even skeptical at one point because I'm not sure if you remember, but when Aaron Ross was on FBM, he had a good series of bikes that were based off of drinks, but they were never really branded that way.
Yeah, I definitely I can remember that. It seems like so long ago that he was on FBM, you know, because he's been on Sunday for close to, I would say, 12 years now.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And I mean, whether it's relevant or not, I just remember thinking like, oh, should I really do this drink concept? And, you know, like we went back and forth with it for a long time until we just landed on that it was a smart move, and that the Jameson colorway with like the transparent green, you know, I just was like, hey, like we got a lot of ideas, but like that bike like looks like a bottle of booze, and fucking I think it's going to sell. So like we just went that direction based off of like that we had more ideas than none, and it was going to be a win. And then after that, we carried it out to where like the next one was like the Arizona frame, where I was like living in Arizona and we were just saying where, because we were just high all the time. So like all of a sudden, like Arizona like became this like weird like inside joke, and we just were like, again, like when we were thinking of like drinks to make bikes off of, you know, we were thinking of like where, you know, these bikes get sold internationally. So if you make a drink like fucking that only gets sold in fucking the Midwest, like nobody's going to know what that is in Europe. So like Arizona iced tea was like a good one because like even though it's like foreign, it still is sold everywhere, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know. That like played into the same thing with like Fiji because like I wanted to do the water beverage. It was gonna be Arrowhead, where we were gonna do a different like spin off of like Arrowhead Mountain. It was gonna be like Shabberhead because Shabber was like another word we used for just being drunk and stupid. And then we were like, wait, nobody knows what Arrowhead is. They're not going to know what Shabberhead is. They're like, why don't we just make it look like Fiji water? Everybody gets Fiji water everywhere. And like, I was only skeptical to that because we were hanging out with like Bones and Xavier Wolf and the Sesh Hollow Water Boys so much that we were like, well, let's not bite their shit because that's not going to look that cool. You know, like we're hanging out with them. Let's not like bite their shit entirely. And we are also side key right here. Me and Reed were also having meetings with Fiji Water, trying to build an extreme sports program, which never happened. But we were real skeptical at the time to do the Fiji Water thing, and eventually Grant just told me, he's just like, look, we got to do Fiji Water. It's like the only water company anybody's going to understand. And I was just like, all right, bet, let's do it. And like, I was actually kind of like, you know, it's funny because you said in the intro that I was a Fiji water enthusiast, which I am, but I was probably the most against that sticker than anyone because I thought that we were just like, it was just too obvious.
yeah, I get what you're saying. I actually really, really liked that colorway. You know, I thought that was such a cool idea with the Fiji water and everything. I just pulled up my Instagram because I know I have a photo of me with that frame and a bottle of Fiji water somewhere on here. I just know it's forever away. But the Arizona one was it was so fucking cool, man. Like I really liked the Arizona idea. And like at the time, a lot of my buddies here were drinking Arizona iced tea as well. And I know that like this is right around when I was gonna get the second frame, like the Clearwater one. They were telling me that I should get the Arizona one. And I think I looked into it because I really liked that orange color, but I don't think I was able to get it. And like at the beginning there, you mentioned that like you know the difference between the V1 and the V2 was that you thickened up the tubes, and I remember getting that first beverage frame and just being so blown away about how small the actual tubing was for like the you know the top tube and the like bottom tube and everything, or the down tube, sorry. But I don't know, it just blew my mind seeing how thin it was, and it held up pretty well.
Yeah, I based the first version off of like Chris Kyle's frame because I like I said, I'm not a geometry guy. I was like, okay, let's go from what I'm riding right now, and then we can kind of explore. And you know, I don't mean to really sound like a total fucking sellout, but when me and Grant talk about these things, just like the same we talked about the graphics, like I was like, hey, how are we gonna make the bike? Like, I just need like 4 hours on it and I'll get used to it. Like, what's going to sell? That's really like, when we were designing my bike, I was like, whatever, dude. I just need like a little bit. I ride it. I'll get used to it. Like, steeper head tube. Kids want steeper head tubes. Do it. Kids want shorter back ends. I was like, do it. And that's, you know, I don't mean to sound like I'm an idiot, but that was mainly like my approach where I was just like, what, we're selling bikes? I'll fucking jump off a roof with a fucking bike. As long as I'm comfortable with it, I'll do it.
Yeah, and honestly, the geometry on that frame, again, like I mentioned earlier, was one of the best geos that I've ever ridden. You know, like the back end wasn't as short as like most people thought it was. I think it was a 13.25, which is a really good rear end length on a frame. And that's like slammed if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was about that. It's funny because we were talking about Ethan earlier. I just watched. He has a bike check out, and he was just talking about how he doesn't have a short back end on his bike because when he jumps into like backwards manuals off of drops, he loops out and he falls on his ass. And again, like, I'm not a geometry guy, but when I heard that, I was just like, oh shit, that's crazy. Like, he actually just like prefers a longer back end still. Like, everybody now just wants like some 12/8, some like real small shit because they think it's gonna like help them fucking three better, whatever. And you know, some people still like. That was never really my bag. I just got used to whatever. I could just ride a bike real quick and get used to it. But I respect people that like think about, you know, what's going to help them with the tricks that they like to do, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel as if I'm sort of the same way. Like, I pay attention to the top tube length. I like a 27.5 frame. And then the rear end length, as long as it's not like anything under 13.2, I'm fine. Like, I don't like the super short back ends either. I think that's just because, like, when you start to take it to, you know, big like park riding, like, I love to ride pretty much anything. So I don't know. I really like, you know, a decent bike that's kind of built for everything, you know? Like, if I was to hop on a ALVX frame, I feel as if, you know, if I wanted to hop on a vert ramp, there's no way. Like, and right now I can still, you know, air 4 or 5 feet out and do a table on a vert ramp. So
Yeah. Yeah. I have a Began frame right now. So I'm about to get that ALVX. I feel like it's going to be a little bit, but I'm getting a longer top tube of the ALVX, but it's still a little bit of a shorter back end.
yeah, those things have real short rear ends.
Yeah, I don't really ride ramps anymore. So I don't know. It might become an issue if I ever like go to some trails, but at the same time, you know, if I'm following somebody, like, I'm gonna get through them.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like, you know, like you mentioned earlier, as long as the bike is like a, you know, strong bike, I feel like you'll be fine. Like, realistically, yeah, it does change a lot when you start to like mess with the geometry, but realistically, the person riding that bike is going to know the bike better than, you know, the people. I don't know. It sounds weird, but better than the people that are building it, at least for them, right? Like, I don't know. That sounds kind of dumb, but
on, like, essentially, you just want to feel comfortable with like one, like, it's in between your lap, you know, like it's in your lap essentially. So like, you got your bike, you're in control of it. Sometimes I feel like if I just if I moved my handlebars to like any bike, it's like an analogy because I've never done this, but because like, you know, your bars and you know the grip and you know that width and you know that pull, you know, like maybe the bike might have like a different stem, top tube length, whatever, but for me, that's like the most comfortable thing about being on a bike is like, I could almost like travel with a pair of bars that just have grips on it. I can put it on any bike and like give me like 5 minutes, you know, as long as it's like still a current BMX bike, like under fucking 26 pounds.
yeah, we're just gonna throw you on one of those fingers crossed bikes. You know, the one that Ruben has, dual suspension BMX bike. See if that's the same for you.
Dude, that sounds fun. What was that video? Is that Tony Hamlin that tried to backflip Ruben or not Ruben, Garrett Byrne?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know that I watched the full series. They did like a, you know, 3 episode thing about these crazy fucking bikes that they built. And it was so interesting. Like, I don't know if you watched the whole thing, but holy fuck, man. Like, they basically just built miniature mountain bikes, but they're the same like geometry as BMX bikes. It's just so interesting. Like, literally,
no, I didn't watch.
It's just so crazy. It's literally like a dual suspension BMX bike.
I saw on Garrett Byrne's Instagram, he has like he has like a bike like that, and then there was like a video of Tony Hamlin just like cooking it, and he tried to backflip like a fly out, and then he bails, and he's just like, that thing's so long.
I'm gonna have to see if I can pull that up for the viewers. That's fucking crazy. But to hop back onto, you know, that beverage stuff, I really wanted to mention the green colorway that you guys did, the Jameson colorway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was honestly one of the best colors that I had ever seen for a BMX bike, and it still holds up to this day as like one of my favorite colorways. I remember, local guy around here, Gabe Truax. He's like, an absolute legend around here. He had one of those frames, and he rode it for quite a while. And like, I don't think it was. He pulled the world's first at Toronto BMX Jam. It was a hanger crank tail whip up and up rail, but I don't think it was on that frame. But I do know that he rode that frame for a few years, and his bike always looked insane.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I just really liked that fucking green, man. It was so cool.
Yeah, well, we did that to try to make it look like, the green bottle of Jameson, and I've always liked like trans colors, but like trans red. There was like a lot of like trans red FBM frames in the beginning, where those were always like American made, and for anybody that doesn't know, like you can't like phosphate wash a frame, so like it won't show the welds through a trans. So like American made frames and most frames that like have that like true weld that pops through, it costs a little bit more money, but it looks fucking awesome when you got a trans color like that, and you can see the weld, but you also still have like a cool coat, cool finish.
Yeah, absolutely. I just pulled up that clip of Tony Hamlin, so I'll show this to the viewers here.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Like you can tell it's definitely.
I don't feel like we're really exposing him because he, like, it's like he went for it, man. That's sick.
Oh hell yeah. You can tell that bike has got to be such a crazy setup too, right? Especially with like normal BMX bike doesn't have those shocks in the front, so like, having to pull a flip out of that seems like it would be real fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty sick to see people like I got friends here in Chicago that are real into cycling, like all around, and they build all types of bikes that like bikes that usually have suspension, and then they put stiff forks on them, and then you can kind of ride them more like BMX bikes, and like all like basically like the entire variety. So I mean, I'm not really there. I have like a road bike and a BMX bike, but.
How'd you get into road biking?
Actually, just when I visit Chicago, I fucking ride like my dad's bike or my brother's bike. They both got road bikes, and I just start fucking ripping.
Yeah, I have like an old Steely road bike, and I think it's a Marinoni. It's real old, but like that thing is so much fun to fucking rip around on. I don't know why I love doing it, but like, I typically just ride my bike to work, and I fucking hit 83.9 kilometers an hour in town. So like probably close to 50 miles an hour would be translating to that. Like just through the city the one day. Pretty fucking fast on a like bicycle, at least I'd say so.
No, man, it's like cycling is just fun, Like I fell in love with bikes through BMX, but I really do like admire people's passion for like all types of cycling, because it's just like people say, it's like two wheels. There's people that go from motorcycles to motocross to like what we do, and I just respect anybody that's trying to rip.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. So I actually kind of want to talk a little bit about filming. So I got into filming probably 8 years ago, and the first camera that I picked up that I really got into filming was an old tape camera, a Canon GL1. And you're actually a very big advocate of the VX. And I gotta say, man, your red VX is fucking sick. That thing looks so good.
Cheers. Yeah, I had a GL2 actually. It was my first 3CCD camera.
How was the GL life for you? Did you like it or?
I did like it. It was odd because it was at a time where I was like less knowledgeable and more influenced if you would say, you know, like I just knew people that had those. So when I finally could raise enough money to convince my father to like pay the rest of it, I was like, hey, I got like almost $2,000. It's like 2,300. Like, what do you say? And he was like, sure, but you're going to college or something fucking stupid. And I was like, I'll go to college, dude. No problem. Buy the camera. I never went to college. But I got that camera, man, and like, man, it was fun. Like, I don't even remember. I think I borrowed a lens from Jeff Klugowitz. Like, the first fisheye I ever had was just like lent to me, but I had it for like nearly a year. And I mean, that was just like fucking not only good mentoring, but like a ton of good practice, and started to learn editing softwares and stuff like that. So like the GL2 was essentially like, yeah, the kickoff for like me. Because before that, I just had like basic Hi8 cameras, you know. It was still digital video, but like real cheap Sony, you know, soccer mom type cameras.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I picked up my GL1 like probably 8 years ago off of like a Craigslist deal. Basically, I got it ridiculously cheap. It's like $200, and like, you know, at the time, I think HD cameras are more or less like the mainstream thing, and the GL1 is by no means a great tape camera. Like, it's decent for sure, but like, I don't know. And at that time, I just knew that I wanted to learn how to shoot with mini DV tape, and, you know, like learn how to do all that. And it was a great camera for that, that's for sure. But after a couple of years, I don't even think a couple of years, maybe a year and a half, I upgraded to a Panasonic DVX, and I shot with that for a couple seasons, and then I picked up a Panasonic HVX and absolutely fell in love with that camera. And like, you know, I think a big thing for a lot of people that want to get into filming, I think it's really important that you get used to using like a, you know, some form of mini DV. Like, I know it's not to today's standards by any means, but I think it gives you a whole new appreciation of like, you know, editing and filming and how to shoot everything, especially because like tapes, you got to buy them. They're not fucking cheap either when you start buying a bunch of them, you know, like, yeah, you can reuse them, but you'll end up kind of screwing them up a little bit. And like, it's also nice just to have that physical tape that like you could throw back in that camera in 10 years. And if everything still works, you could probably sit there and watch it.
That's true. I got shoe boxes full of tapes.
Yeah, I've got fucking quite a few. But what has kept you with, you know, the VX? Is there anything particular about that camera that you just absolutely love?
A couple things. Like, it's just kind of where I evolved into post, you know, the GL2. It's funny you say you went from the GL1 and then you got the Panasonic, because you essentially kind of like skipped the VX generation. Because after like the VX21 came out, it had about a year's run, and then the Panasonic, before the HD version, kind of like took over. Everybody like tried it out. It was more or less like they had a very short run, because then the HD came real quick. But it's funny that you say that, because in that gap is when I got a VX2100. So I started with the very last VX. And, you know, so I was never really a VX1 guy. But nobody was until it got to be like kind of like popular, you know? So if I could explain why I got a VX2100, it was basically because of Walter Perringer, who filmed for Props, great photographer, still works for Odyssey and Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely unreal. Like, if you guys don't know who he is probably one of the most important people in BMX media. At least I'd say so.
Walter is very technical, and I've been looking up to him since I found out who he was and could watch him work. He's just a very like good man of his craft. Some people don't care for like how simplistic it is, but in truth, like if it's not gonna bug you, then he's doing his job well. Like he usually like sets up photos and has other people hit the button. He has like sequences done while he's filming. Like he's running. He's wearing a lot of hats. So that aside, Walter at one point told me to get the VX21 because it was like brand new, and I just like once again had to pull together a lot of money to make the decision to where it was like, hey, these cameras keep going out of fucking style every 2 to 3 years. Like, I'll get the one that this guy says to get, because like Walter was like smart, like technical, like, you know, you had like people like Shad Johnson who, like, no offense to him, but like he had like an interview once where they're like, what's in your bag? And he was like, I just have a VX, a lens, and a battery. And it was just like, okay. And other people were like taking it much more serious. And that's where I like started to gravitate towards that, where I was like, I want to know my equipment. I want to know my settings. I want to like understand this stuff. And it took a while, but like that's essentially the camera that I learned all that on, was the VX20-100, to where I started to shoot manually rather than automatically. So that's where it started. And then obviously, you know, like with the skate stuff and a bunch of videos going back to it, and like End Search and Deadline. I mean, End Search was mainly like VX 2000s, not even 21s. And then Deadline was primarily like VX 1000s. And then that's when kind of like the craze started, and everybody was like, we're going to film like this because it's old school. And it's like, I agree. Everybody should definitely learn that experience. But now that I've not been doing it for a few years, fucking that shit sucks.
Yeah, I will admit, you know, like switching to the HVX, I bought it originally because it could shoot tape as well as, you know, P2 media. And like P2 is definitely a pain in the ass, but like, I don't know. Yeah, I really liked the fact that it could still shoot with tape, and I wasn't sure if I was going to continue shooting with tape or if I would ever need to. And, you know, ever since I've stopped, I have had so much more free time. Like, even just importing stuff on those cameras was a pain in the ass, because it's not like, for anybody listening, basically the way that like tape media imports versus you know, HD media is way different. Like HD media, basically you can just drop and drag everything, whereas with, you know, a mini DV tape, it's capturing it. So it's basically like a screen recording. So you have to sit there the entire time. So if you have a full 60-minute tape, it'll take 60 minutes to import.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not even as large of a file as 60 minutes of HD footage.
Yeah, exactly. It's you know, it definitely has its place, and like I hate to be like a hater or anything, but I've just like since then I have definitely stuck with like, you know, my opinion on filmmaking is like, in this day and age, all of our phones is where we watch most things, and they're all 16:9, you know, they're not 4:3, so like I don't know. Like, I definitely can still, I have a lot of love for anybody that shoots on tape, because I know how much work it is. And I know that, like, you know, if everybody shot HD, it wouldn't be as fun. I think that's like one thing, right? Like, if everybody was the same, it wouldn't be great. You wouldn't have like people, you know, pushing the boundaries of the VX or anything like that. It's just my personal opinion, I guess.
No, of course. And you're entitled to that. I mean, the same thing. I mean, like you said, everybody does that, watch everything on their phone. So essentially, you know, a video that's shot at 1080 can be projected onto a very large screen, as could a video that's shot at 480, 4:3.
Yeah.
So if you're watching a 4:3 video on your phone, it's gonna look pretty good, because that's even smaller than it's like meant to be viewed.
Yeah, exactly. I guess what I was getting at is that like, the borders on the side aren't going to be full, but like that doesn't really matter that much. And like, my dad, he's a skater. He's been skating for over 30 years and like his opinion on cameras and stuff like that is that when it comes to like BMX, shooting in like, a wider screen looks better because a bike is longer, whereas like, a VX is awesome for skateboarding because the whole clip is going to be like that perfect view of like the skater and what he's doing, and you're not going to have a bunch of extra on the side, right? Like he's got a really good point about it. At least I think so.
Yeah, I fucking have to definitely disagree 100% with both of you. And that's only because I've gone on record saying this in other podcasts.
Yeah, that's okay, man. I think it definitely, it's all,
my, my perspective is that action sports go up and down. So, like, the vertical reach is more important than the left to right.
yeah, that's a really good point, actually.
I can get very, very, very close to somebody and I'll be very low and I got my fisheye and I got my wrist is just like, I mean, at this point now, like when I'm filming lines, whether it's 16:9 or fisheye still or 4.3 Mark 1, it's essentially like it's like muscle memory at this point. So like I kind of know my length with my lenses, and then you can just always keep somebody in frame. And if I keep somebody in frame with my 16:9, I could very easily fill that with black.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess you're right on that.
But if I was filming 4.3, I could take that and just tighten it all up, and I could get them head to toe and wheel to wheel. But when you go 16:9, if I wanted wheel to wheel 16:9, I'm cutting heads, and I'm like all pegs, I'm all cranks, or I'm just like real tight. I mean, you could watch stuff like Rich Forn, Dave Sowerby, myself. I mean, like we all get really close on lines, and you might like get really close to like a tire tread, and you don't see anything else. But I mean, like that's damn near like scrubbing. Like you're about to get like hit with the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
at that point, you're gonna like have a lot of like side stuff in the frame, and then you're gonna have like a lot of like the head missing and stuff like that. But then like those shots are usually when you're switching sides. And so now you got to go from like that rider's left side, swoop around their back wheel, and then whether you're on a skateboard or you're running, you got to speed up to get to the position that you were on the other side. So like, it's a hard sell, but like truly 4x3 for extreme sports, like I said, where people go up and down more than, like if you just want to show a large gap, you zoom out. But if you want to like encapsulate the height, yeah, like left to right doesn't fucking matter at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can definitely see where you're coming from on that. Yeah, and you know what? There's still a lot of really good VX videos that come out today. Like, I think it's really cool to see the way that like things have gone, I guess, where you've got people shooting stuff like Christian Regal, but then you also have like, just unreal filmers with VX. Like Ethan Corrier's new part that Sauce filmed with the VX is unreal. Looks great. Like, and I think it's cool that like BMX, when you look at the media, like, world of it, there's always like those two categories that things fall under, but they're always like the videos aren't the same. You know what I mean? They're all different realistically, but like, I don't know. I just really like that. Like, whenever you see a VX like clip right away before you even put on like the audio or anything, you kind of know the way that it's going to be. It's always great. Like, Deadline was one of my favorite videos ever, and that's all VX. Anthem 2, another one of my favorite videos that's filmed on VX.
Oh yeah. I tend to definitely click a lot more on thumbnails where I can tell that it's like film standard.
Yeah.
because I just want to see how, like, whether it's like a brand or it's just like some crew, you know, like primarily I look at Dig's website. So I'll go to Dig and I'll just be like, oh, what that thumbnail looks like. I don't know what that is, but if it's like looks like it's a thumbnail from something of a standard definition camera, I'll be like, let's go see how they did it, because I like a good mixture of, like, you know, I like VX videos, but I like when people also like add a art direction to it or have some like good theme, you know, like people mix in like YouTube clips, or they'll mix in like a good like graphic or font. Like the whole package to me is what really can sell like any video, but like VX videos especially. If I see like a VX video that looks polished, that fucking makes me happy.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying. Like whenever VX videos like are fully polished and they're always like, I don't know, whenever they are done right, they always are really, really good.
There's a BSD one that just came out, and I mean, I don't want to speak too quickly because I don't know anything about it, but I just watched it. And so whether Dave Sowerby, for those who aren't familiar, Dave Sowerby would have been the one that like probably did the graphics for this video, because they fit like the rest of their graphics, or he gave the dude who made the video the graphics. But who is it? Felix Danette. No worries, BSD. Like, go watch that. 3 minutes. And some kid filmed it. Who is it? Frank St. Simon. He's got to be German. Said they're from Germany. So I would reckon that like it was a mixture of like collaborate. Like that's what I like about BSD, to where when I did my BSD Fiji water video, the one that you were referencing earlier.
Yep.
I made the video, I edited it, and then I sent it to Dave Sowerby, and he did the graphics because he was the one who did the graphics on my frame. So, you know, to just like make it more clear, when you make a movie, there's sometimes nearly 400 people that are involved, more. And then like to think that like 2 people worked on this edit is very cool, because like I kind of do see like 2 elements, and maybe this kid Frank St. Simon is a really good editor, and I've never heard of him. But it looks like he filmed this video very good, and Dave Sowerby like tidied it up and like really packaged it into what BSD's vibe and feel is, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I like. That's the type of shit that I like to see.
Hell yeah. Well, anybody listening after this podcast, go and check that video out. Moving on from that, let's talk a little bit about some of the clips that you've got over the years. So let's start off with the half cab at the end of your Clearwater promo. So I'll play the clip on screen. And do you have a good story behind this? Was there, you know, anything that like you had to build up to do this, or was it kind of something that you found randomly?
That's funny. That's dope. That clip was like right next to, I think it's the clip before. I don't even know, but it's like a T-bog on a roof, and then I ride off the roof. Well, like that spot is the same spot. Like we did that, and then I was like all piped up and thought, hey, let's half cab this fucking wall. And, you know, you could do a bunch of fucking half cabs on flat and try to gauge how high you're going and get your confidence up, but you're still going to be like nervous. It wasn't so much the height of the half cab, but it was more or less like the run up, which was just, I mean, basically just enough, like just fucking enough. And it was first tee, and I fucking pretty much humped the fuck out of my bars. Like, I get a good tuck and I clear the wall, but like if you pause it just right, like it gets real nasty at one point. But I was just like, fuck it. I walked away, you know, like I had enough experiences where like you go back and try something again and then you get fucked, you know? you get fucking
Yeah.
broke off. So I just was like, hey, I landed it, and I just pedaled off, and fucking, that's a DBG right there, dude. That's what David Grant used to always do when he did something scary. He'd just fucking pedal away and just scream. So that's what I did that day, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm keeping it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I actually had no idea that that was the same spot, but now looking at it, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't fucking realize that. Like, that is so cool, though, that it was done the same day, too, obviously. Same clothing and everything, same spot. Yeah, that's fucking
Oh,
wild.
yeah. And Jeff Westcott also did like a bar spin into that roof that day for something in one of his like Mutiny Comb, maybe his first Mutiny Comb promo.
Damn.
So like we were in Puerto Rico for that trip, and we filmed each other. It was like a total like collaborative. Like that was a pretty cool moment where we like collabed and we filmed each other, and BSD and Mutiny kind of like split the bill type thing.
Yeah, I think that's like so cool about fucking BMX is that like some companies are willing to split the bill on like, you know, stuff like that. I don't know. It's just so cool to me that like two competitors, realistically, you know, it's a business, two competitors are willing to send employees together to this spot. Like, I don't know why that's just like, it's so cool that like BMX is like that, you know?
Yeah, man. And that's like, it's funny not to say like we had to talk them into it, but it was just in everybody's best interest to just save some money and have people that work together well go and do it. And we brought Wes, and I think Dig flew out west, and he shot photos, and there was like a Dig article. I mean, it just, when stuff comes together that neatly, there's just no reason to like fight it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that clip is fucking crazy, man. How tall do you think the actual drop is? Because you have to half cab over that, like, you know, little ledge that looks like it's probably about a foot and a half tall. And then there's like, it looks almost to be like an 8-foot drop on the other side, I'd say.
Oh, fuck. I'd have to look at it. I don't know. It's taller than me, but I'm not very tall.
Yeah, you're 5'6" gang, right?
Oh, yeah, brother.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, that was 2015 that it was released. So, you know, 5 years ago. And at the time, I don't think many people were doing half cabs down big shit at that point. Like, I think Began, his half cab down El Toro might have been 2015. I can't remember, though.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. I started doing half cabs with a cassette. And I don't want to say that I like started anything, because I think that Patrick King probably had, like, Pat King or maybe Bruce Chrisman probably had like the biggest, or maybe fucking Joe Cox.
Yeah, there's a really good clip of Pat King in I think the original Trip video where he does like a half cab down this fucking stair set and then like a 360 down the next set. He was unreal. I wonder, I haven't really heard much about him. I don't know if he really rides anymore. It's one of those guys that like super underrated.
Damn, I'd like to talk about Pat King again. But I was bringing, Pat King actually had a bigger half cab than that in like a band video. That was the one that I was talking about.
Okay.
But I think it's like band 4 or 5. Maybe it's band 3. Fuck, I don't even know. But not to get even too fucking boasty, but those are coaster cabs.
Yeah, fair enough, actually.
So cassette cabs. What was the first one I ever fucking saw? It's hard to think. But here's the thing. I remember that I did if you go watch my tattooer section, I don't know if you're familiar with that film.
Oh, no, I don't think I am. Sorry, man.
No, that's cool. You should, for everybody who doesn't know, me and Miles Rogish, we did a film called Tattooer, where we we invited a bunch of people to go. You had to get a tattoo the first day, and then we just went on a trip. And we invited like a bunch of people. It's supposed to be like Brad Sims, Sean Sexton, Ty Morrow, and like not everybody could make it, or they just didn't agree to it. And the crew that ended up, I mean, you guys will see, but it's like Seamus McCune's on there. There's a lot of people on there. Like Westcott's on there. And it's like a full video. You can watch it. It's online. But in my section there, I half cab like a pretty famous like 8-stair, which isn't that big, in Tulsa. And I can remember Walter Perringer saying, he was like, I don't know if that's a photo. And I was like, no, man, it's a photo. I'm like, I'm on a half cab set. Just like, you know, like it's about the caption. I was like, as long as like sure, the photo will look weird. It might look like I'm doing like a weird 3 or something. You know what I mean? But like when you read the caption, it'll be like the half cab. You know?
Yeah.
And sure enough, like I remember I really liked the clip, and it did end up in a magazine. So like, but that was when that trick like wasn't really considered much of a trick, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I feel like people really weren't doing them down sets at that point, you know, especially on cassette. That's like a whole other thing. It's crazy. Like I was telling these kids that just started riding this year about, you know, Garrett's part in Deadline and how he does a like full cab double truck down a 5 block at the end of Deadline. And that it's on a cassette hub, and they were completely blown away because all these kids ride coasters. Like they just, you know, got started. They love coaster riding, which is sick. Like I definitely can see coasters are like, you know, the new normal within BMX, and that's like kind of cool to see.
What's funny is that if those fucking kids knew anything, is that cab shit with a cassette is so much easier. Like
oh, yeah.
The pedal pressure is like, I mean, they probably just don't understand the concept of backpedaling, but like once you backpedal and then you can push, it's like, holy fuck, man. Like, I'm back home right now and I didn't bring my bike, but I have a bike at a friend's house, and I like revamped it, and I got it at my brother's where I'm staying. And it's got a cassette, and I'm just like doing back manuals, and like I've been doing back manuals with a coaster now for like 4 or 5 years, but like still the cassette just like, whew, man, like I went to a skate park, I was doing tail taps with just pedal pressure. Like I guess if the kids don't know that, like it could seem like really foreign to them, but it's easier. Like doing a 3 cab with a coaster is really hard.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Like I've sat there and filmed dudes trying to do full cabs down stair sets, and like just even doing that on a coaster is ridiculous. But like on a cassette, it's really easy to use that pedal pressure to bring yourself around.
Yeah, it's even easier to notice where you're at too, because like, yeah, well, you remember Carl Pointer?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he used to like kind of get shit because he would like go fakey, but then he would like kind of engage, and you could tell when he had like pressure. But it was only at like skate parks. He would just like do back manuals that were like crazy, but then he would like engage so he could drop in properly, you know?
Yeah.
And I never had a problem with it because I was just like, dude, he's in control. Like that's not gross. That's control. And like, fuck, man, like Rat Boy, like he used to do all this types of backmanning shit, and that was with a cassette. Like before free coasters, like, you know, like we were saying earlier, it's wild that like kids just don't even know, because fuck, man, I grew up and my bike we had back brakes, you know, where like you could just stomp and that was like, those were your brakes.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to get a lot of shit for doing half cabs, and like I've pretty much only ever rode a cassette, but like I would, you know, come out of it or I would be coming out of it switch foot, and then in the air I would do like a half rotation with my feet to go back to normal. people always used to say that it was like super weird or that it was cheating, and I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't know, you're kind of more in control. I always found it to be easier to go and do that. I don't know why, but I've since switched that up. Now I do it normal footed for all you fucks out there.
Nah, fuck them. But hey, that's cool. Like, Tom Dugan does like 360s and just like switches his feet like halfway. Have you ever noticed that?
No, I haven't. I'm gonna look at that now, and I bet you I'll see it right away.
Oh, dude, it makes zero sense, dude, other than he's a lunatic.
Yeah, that guy is fucking wild, man. Like, always insane.
I love him to death. He's the best.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like such a good fucking example of like what BMX is, you know? He is like just so unreal, so fucking wild, always doing something. I absolutely loved his fucking day in the life video that he did like who knows, probably close to 8 years ago. That video is still one of the most hilarious day in the life videos that's ever been released in the BMX world.
Yeah, he doesn't disappoint, man. He's still like, he'll hide away, but then when he comes out, he's still like can put on and be the exact Tom Dugan everybody wants to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. So there's a half cab clip that you did in Arizona. I think it's also your ender that I wanted to talk about. And it's 180 off of a roof onto another roof, and then you do like a half cab out of that. And this setup is pretty fucking crazy, and it looks as if like the second roof is literally about to fucking cave in. Like, it's insane that you pulled this. So I'll pull that up. Do you want to tell us a little bit of a backstory behind that?
Yeah, this is a good one too. That roof was like way worse. So, if you can see it now, or as you'll see it soon, it's like underneath it is like that shitty kind of like farm grade, like, I don't even know how to call it other than like ruffle chips, like sheet metal.
Yeah, it's like some sort of. It almost looks like aluminum, but probably not even.
Yeah, I think it's probably some thin type of steel or whatever, but it's definitely not sturdy. So it wasn't sturdy to begin with. I don't even know how this really came about, other than probably that I was like feeding for clips and like saw it and thought that modding it would work. So we went to Home Depot. I think I jumped up there and I felt it and was like, this will break. So I like measured it with my feet. Like, I walked it, and then I marked it like both ways with my feet. And then we went to Home Depot and bought a piece of plywood, and then they'll do you like, usually Home Depot does you like 2 cuts for free, and then they charge you like 10 cents per cut, but usually you can just fucking finesse it and get them to just cut whatever you want. I think we only needed 2 cuts, but I showed them with my feet because we didn't have a tape. And I measured out like 2 pieces of wood, and then we bought epoxy. And we went and we epoxied those pieces of wood to that roof, and then we went and ate Mexican for like probably an hour and a half and let it dry.
Yeah, that's fucking wild, man. And it looks as if it was more than one attempt, you know, like in these clips here as a filmer and an editor, first thing that I'm noticing is that on the one tripod shot, you go to 180 into it and there's no camera guy down there. And then in the next shot, there is. So did you end up, not making it on the first one, or were you guys able to kind of crop them out?
Yeah, that's Dave. Dave is really good at, he masks himself out of most clips. So I would reckon that they're the same take.
Yeah, you know what? I could definitely see that.
But I can't actually be certain of that because he might have used a different run up rather than, you know what I mean? So But he is really like, if you want to use BFD's transmission video for an example, he masks himself out of there. I mean, I wouldn't say dramatically would be one way to say it, but like he does it quite well. He even masked me out of a clip there in that video that I was just like, holy shit! Like Reed goes past me and he masked me out.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Like I've done it quite a few times. It's really not bad. And like the shot here, I can absolutely see that he probably did because it's a normal tripod shot. So like, and then you actually like cut out before you half cab on. So like realistically, pretty easy shot to mask himself out of because, you know, you just leave the camera rolling afterwards and you've got all that extra footage just to place on top of it. So yeah, I can see that.
But I mean, you're not wrong to speculate because I think it was like maybe three to four tries, maybe just three.
Yeah, and then
that woman was yelling at me, and I just was like you know, she threatened to stand there, and then I said I'll land on you, and then she moved. And I just did it.
Yeah, what is with it? And crazy ladies trying to stop BMX riders from doing rad shit, eh? You got Lil Juice fucking tail whipping El Toro with that crazy bitch. You got this lady fucking standing in the way. What is going on?
She just was like, yeah, she was just like, I'll call the cops. And I'm like, fuck you too, bitch. Call the cops. I'm doing this.
I can never understand that, you know? Like, we were at Riding Street the other day, and this fucking dude got super pissed because there was probably like 3-4 of us, and we were actually staying pretty far away from each other, you know, with the quarantine and the distancing and everything. But we're looking at this rail that I've already done before. I was showing a buddy of mine, and this dude comes out of his fucking house immediately, screaming and yelling and freaking out, like so mad. So I just like bike over to the guy and I just approach him like, hey man, like there's a different way to do this. Like had you just said, hey, can you guys leave? We absolutely would have done it. But the fact that like you're freaking out and yelling and making a scene is like so unacceptable, you know, like it's so disrespectful. Like, and the guy actually completely switched his attitude and was like the nicest guy after that. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like that was completely inappropriate of me. Like, you know, if you guys want to ride that, like, just try and be out of here in a couple minutes and it's fine. And I was like, holy shit, that was awesome. That fucking worked. So apparently if you're Canadian and just super nice, people will fucking let you do whatever you want.
Hell yeah, fucking go Canadians, man. Super nice people. It actually reminds me of a story. There's a skate park like near us that it allows bikes now, but it didn't allow bikes when I was younger. And I like was just riding on a day where, you know, I didn't go to school very much when I was younger, so I'd just go to the skate park. And this cop pulled in and was like, hey, you can't be here. And I'm like, no one's here. And he was like, can you read the sign? Can you read the sign? And I was like, I just stayed silent because I was like trying to be polite until he like, you know, he basically like he made a fucking ass of himself and got upset and was like, can you read? And I was just like, yeah, man, I can fucking read. But you don't have to come up and insult me. Like, what do you think you're doing? And like, we got into this argument where I was like, yeah, there's no bikes here, but no one's here. Why do you think I'm here right now when no one's here? Because there's no bikes. Why are there no bikes? You don't know. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, why are you judging me? Why did you try to come up and like break me down? Like, you're police. And he like, this is a police officer, and I was like fucking 17 years old. And he was just like, you're right. I'm really sorry. You know, like, it's just the law, and they say no bikes, and we got to enforce it. He, like, apologized, and I remember just being like, damn. Like, I thought I was going to get in trouble because I snapped, but I, like, put him in place.
Yeah, that's always the best feeling, man. I've done that to a couple security guards that, like, just come out freaking out. Like, I've had quite a few of them where I'm just like, man, like, what's going on in your normal average day life? Like, why are you freaking out at random people? Like, I get that, maybe you've dealt with people in the past that are dicks, but like, every new person is a new opportunity, Like, just be nice and fucking, maybe it won't fuck you later. I don't know. I'm a firm believer in karma. That's my thing. So.
Yeah, and you got to show some respect to get it back,
Oh, absolutely. And like, that's the thing, right? Like, that guy, he fucking instantly respected me right after I just said, like, why don't you just be normal? Like, just be nice about it. You don't need to freak out. Like, it's just not, that's not a, thing to do. And it's so hard too, because my one buddy is like, he is always so excited to get into arguments with people. And I'm just trying to like calm him down. So he's fucking freaking out at this guy. And I'm like, man, just shut up. Like, just be quiet. I'm dealing with this. It's fine. And sure enough, fucking everything was fine. So
yeah, local heroes.
yeah, there you go. um, yeah,
go ahead and I've rambled on a lot. So if you got more questions, go ahead and fire them off.
Oh yeah, I got tons, man. This is like my favorite thing on my podcast when I've got like, I normally make a conscious effort to have about 30, 35 questions lined up just in case, I get a guest that isn't super talkative, but we have like, we're not even a quarter of the way through what I have. So I'll try and get to the good ones for the most part. But this is awesome. This is like exactly what I love. So hell yeah.
Have at it.
In fact, you're actually pretty good at speaking, especially during podcasts, because you had a podcast as well with the Gully Factory. So before we jump into the whole podcast part of that, why don't you explain to everybody what the Gully Factory is or was?
Essentially, it was just like, it is what it always has been, and it will never change because we still got group chats going on. I mean, like that bond between like the friends we made, the connection and all that, just making those videos. That's the type of thing where I can go back to like the common crew where like those guys. Ethan Courier made a post the other day about Denim Cox's BSC frame, right? And he said, we ain't gonna stop until the whole team makes it, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I saw that, and that actually made me feel fucking so good. I don't know why. I was like, that is such a solid fucking thing. Like, I love the fact that all of those dudes are just hyped on each other,
Yeah, that's fucking it right there. Because I mean, again, I don't even mean to boast, but like we unconsciously like did that in a weird way. Like the second we started the Gully Factory, we just kind of like took off. It's weird. Hold on, if you want me to start from the beginning, I gotta not fast forward. When we started the Gully Factory, it was literally because we wanted to just have a crew. And we came up under Midwest BMX, and then we had .1 BMX. And we just like made a couple crews up until there wasn't a crew for like a long time. Like it just went like a few years to where we were like, man, why don't we have anything anymore? Like we should just start one. And we were like, all right, let's start one. And Matt Marquise, who's fucking the homie, saw him the other day, always said Gully, which is like a New York term, but he always said Gully. And so we just like started saying Gully, and it just became like part of we were always talking slang. Like the main part of all of our inside jokes were just like stupid slang words, right? And the Gully Factory came from, I can say this now because I don't think it's ever going to happen, but when we wanted to start the crew, we said we should call it the Gully. And then I was like, we should call it the Gully. And then I wanted to put like another tag on it because eventually I wanted to get a warehouse and like have like a media house, like the barracks or like the bakery.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt there, but I was talking to Brian last week about the bakery, and like that was the same thing where I was like, the bakery gave me such like vibes as the barracks, you know? Like it's literally, you could see that he was very influenced by it, or at least like, I don't know, I guess who isn't, like anybody that's into media, I feel like we're all influenced by the barracks and that we all would love to have a park because god damn man, if I could, I'd have a fucking warehouse right now with like ramps in it and I'd be sitting in there doing this podcast. But unfortunately, I'm in my 2-bedroom apartment and we got to do it here for now.
Yeah, and it's wild because like I've never actually spoke about this publicly because now I know that it's officially like put to bed. But when we made the Gully Factory, we called it the Gully Factory because my initial intention was to always get a space. So that was like, we could have called it the Gully Co. We could have called it the Gully Brand, the Gully Soft Goods or whatever, you know. But I was like, let's call it the Gully Factory because one day we'll get a factory and then we'll have like, I just wanted to do like, I basically wanted to copy the model of the barracks and just do like how-tos and tons of videos inside this like ramp house. And I mean, we even got like, once the word got out and I like was like drunk at Nora Cup and said one too many things to somebody, like Ride BMX was like, hey, you want to do the Gully Factory? Like we can do it under like we can pay for it, you know? And then like, I mean, I said no, but also then Ride BMX went under. So
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, eh? That would have been really rough had you done it and they went under.
Dude, I've never said this shit fucking anywhere, man. I'm waiting. This shit's gonna clap back on me, but also who gives a fuck? That's real shit. So that's why we did it. That's why we called it the Gully Factory. But what's funny about it is that what we were doing back then was like kind of a little bit ahead of its time to where we had like a blog and we used to just like do funny skits and like make funny videos that weren't like necessarily focused around riding, but just like how much fun we were having. And everybody had the password so they could go and post. And Matt Marquise used to like make posts about wrestling and fucking God knows what. And Crunchy used to fucking do posts. Like all of a sudden we just had like this little following and like we didn't know like anything to do with it other than to just like take it off from there and make more videos and just be more wild. And I mean, what happened from there is just like we started making clothes and trying to fund trips and just like pay for weed and shit like that. Like it never really became anything more than that. And what's crazy is that we all like kind of separated before we really realized like how strong of a like a structure that we had, you know, like we all moved to Arizona and then it was only 3 of us rather than like 5 of us. And, we started filming for this film called 1235. And then when like David Grant got involved in that and then David Grant kind of fell off from that. And, you know, that video is still going to come out, but like, that's like a 12-year project of like VX footage. And if that's not on your list, you ain't doing your homework.
Yeah, I looked into it and I was trying to see if I could find it online anywhere, but as you said, it hasn't released yet, eh?
1235?
Yeah.
Oh no, it ain't done yet.
That'd be cool once it's out, you know? Like Deadline was one of those videos that took what, like 6 years to release, maybe longer. You know, like a lot of that footage is really old, and when you start to see that kind of stuff, like it can get real fucking interesting, you know?
There is footage from, I think 1235 has been just over 11 years.
Wow.
But there's 1234. Anybody that's listening into this conversation, there's 1234 is online. It's called 1234. You have to spell it like a time clock, you know, like 12 with the 2 decimals, and then it's called the pH vid. The pH vid, making sure that it's actually there. Yeah, it has its own Vimeo.
So how did you come up with that name? Was that you behind that, or was it David, like you were saying earlier? Like, who kind of came up with the 1235 and 1234, I guess?
What's funny is like along this time, like this is when I think I moved to Tulsa, and then I moved back. So, like, I moved to Tulsa, and like I did a bunch of shit. Like, we might have been like did like tattoo, and we did like stuff around that, and that was like me and Miles, like era type shit. And then when I moved back to Illinois, I was like, hey, I should do something here because, you know, fuck it. Like, I was just kind of talking like recently about how like BMXers and all these people have like always been the primary influencers, you know, like not like BMXers influence everything, but you know how influencers are now like on Instagram and they just like promote like lotion and fucking whatever, anything they can get for like a promo code.
Yeah, I had a company hit me up the other day and they wanted me to try and sell supplements or like, you know, like workout powder. And like, I don't work out at all. Like, I literally have a fucking beer gut. So like, it's kind of weird that, you know, they want me to do that, but not happening.
Yeah, because like now everybody is their own like individual, which that's the funniest thing about like BMX has always been that way. It was always companies targeting somebody who like already had like a little bit of a bite already, you know? So like, I mean, this can go for any fucking BMX rider you want to talk about on your podcast, because like talk about Brian Terada or any of these people, like those guys rode for Etnies. Like, companies come at you because you're like, hey, you got a little buzz going. And before the term influencer was a thing, BMXers were always approached by companies because of their personal influence. It's like pretty much been the name of the game for like extreme athletes, because we're not a team sport. We are an individual sport.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, didn't Ryan Nyquist ride for Butterfinger or like the chocolate bar company?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, and fucking Dennis Anderson rode for Jack Links.
Yeah, and then, you know, I had Mike Spinner on the show a while ago, and like talking to him, you know, he was the ultimate influencer. He was making 300 grand a year just wearing t-shirts. Like, you know, that kind of shit.
He was doing Monster, and he was doing Ballpark Franks and fucking.
Yeah, he said that he had for a 2-year deal with Ballpark Franks just to wear their t-shirts during like, you know, his events and like during, you know, when he went on Jimmy Kimmel Live and all that stuff. When he did that for 2 years, he was getting paid almost 400 grand for those 2 years. Like, that is fucking insane. Like, just to wear a shirt, you know? I guess it's not just really wearing a shirt though. It's all about like, you know, he built himself to be that like, you know, I guess profitable and that like much of a asset.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Spinner, he got chubby, didn't he?
Yeah, it's definitely a different situation, you know? Like, he owns a workout company now, like a supplement company. And like,
really?
yeah, he owns Evil, which is like, I guess they tore out the backyard ramp to build his company there. And like, it's one of the biggest workout supplement companies in the world. And like Matty Kramer, Scotty Kramer's little brother, actually rides for them. And like quite a few, like he still pays attention to the BMX world quite a bit.
Not bad.
Yeah, super cool guy. Honestly, I wasn't sure, like, because when I first got into riding, he was one of the people that influenced me a little bit. Like, I just really liked the way. It sounds weird because, like, especially since at the beginning of this, I was saying I didn't really like all that crazy, spinny bar spin shit with park riding. But when I first got into it, he was like one of those people that I really looked up to. And now it's like, I guess, tastes changed. Like he did do a lot for the sport, which is awesome. But like, I definitely wouldn't like his style of riding now. Like, no disrespect to you, Mike, if you're listening, probably not. But yeah.
Oh. Hey, sorry, I was watching this video with my brother.
No, that's all good.
They just walked in, my brother and his wife. They've been hosting me for a while, so being rude to them would be a total disservice to this society.
Oh, of course, man. Completely understandable.
You know what's funny about Mike Spinner, and I don't mean to air him out, but one time at a contest in Florida, I witnessed in the same weekend, somebody got his signature tattooed on their ass. They were doing free tattoos at a mesh contest.
Yeah.
And Mike Spinner just like signed some guy's ass, and he was like, all right, I'll get it tattooed. So then that happened. And then later on that day, someone was spreading rumors that Mike Spinner got head and high-fived the girl after.
Oh, I can see that. No, Mike was a really cool guy when I talked to him, And I could definitely see that though.
I know Mike. I have got no beef with him.
Yeah, that was I had a person ask me, like, it was one of the, I always put out those fan like question things on Instagram to just get, people's feedback, see what they want to ask. And one of them was like, have you ever done a 1080 so fast that you went back in time and were a virgin again? And like, it was just such a weird question. And then I talked to him later, and I guess that Mike actually didn't lose his virginity till he was almost like 21, maybe 19, but I can't remember. But I just know that it was like a pretty older age at that point, I guess.
Hell yeah. Low numbers, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Did you get what did the questions come in for us on this one?
We have quite a few here, actually. If you want to jump into those, we sure can. So.
Well, yeah, go back into yours too. No problem. I'm open to whatever.
Hell yeah. Well, let's do some of these fan ones, because you actually, I think, got pretty much the most out of all of my guests so far, which is really cool to see. So. A fan wanted to know if people have ever called you Tony Meatloaf.
That was actually like my nickname when I was like in kindergarten on the bus.
I kind of would assume so, just with your last name. I feel like it's just really low-hanging fruit in the joke department, I guess.
Yeah, someone used to fucking kind of stab that at us. I never really cared. I guess maybe I kind of commended them in their efforts.
Yeah.
But at one point, I was at a deli, and they had turkey meatloaf, and it honestly looked just like my name if you just, like, squinted a little.
Yeah. Well, dude, even sitting here, I've got, like, my laptop with the, that question here, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's pretty fucking close. Like... Oh fuck!
Yeah, I've gotten that one, but I mean, no offense. Nice one on you.
Yeah, there's my last name is Gelbreath, and like all through fucking public school, I would always hear like girl's breath and shit like that, and like I don't know why I never thought that was that funny. I guess because like I don't know, it's just not that great of a joke, but yeah, that was one that I always got.
Yeah, I discredit that. Fuck them.
So Mason Patrick, he's got a question for you, and feel free to, pass on this one if you want to, but he asked what happened between you and Fit Bike Co.
To keep it brief, I thought I would do 3 years there, and I ended up just doing 2. And we left on very, very fair grounds. You know, I gave in like a basic, like formal resignation, gave him my 2 weeks. It ended in good terms.
Cool enough. Yeah, just that was what Mason wanted to know. And you know, it's so funny, and like, not to call Mason out on this, because Mason actually is one of our weekly listeners here. Thank you, Mason. But he I like looked through some of your, you know, Instagram stuff, and I managed to see that he had asked you that like a year ago on a post. And I think that you kind of gave him the same answer, but yeah, who knows? I think that that's that's what happened. So there you go.
Damn, good research, Cam.
Yeah, I like to fucking really go ham on this stuff. That's kind of why I like, you know, we were planning on maybe doing it yesterday, but I always like to try and take an extra day, cuz like that little tiny stuff really makes a big difference sometimes. At least it makes me feel like I know what I'm doing, right? So
Nah, good for you.
hell yeah. So Shits on Ian asked, I loved your BSD beverage concept. Were there any colors that you had in mind that didn't make the cut?
Yeah, we did. Like I said, there were like numerous, like we were thinking about doing other fruit drinks before we did the Arizona beverage. But again, like the Arizona, I guess like availability was like what led us to like try to do like a brand, like to parody a brand, you know, that was more available like nationwide. And then so like post to that, they basically become like colorways. Like we kind of started to get into like, well, you know, after the water beverage, we put everything to bed, but that's when I quit BSD. But there was a lot of concepts before that, you know, they just never really got put into motion in the sense of like graphics. Like we never got to actually see any like temp packs or anything like that. So we had ideas that got tossed around, but like nothing that really hit.
Yeah, can you tell us any of those ideas, or would you rather just keep them private?
I think that it kind of like borders into stuff that might come out later, or you know, just a little bit too touchy. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's fine. Zach asks, "What's your favorite trick right now?" And I'm assuming that it's going to be a Tbog, right?
I like Milfa cans most. I will always do Milfa cans first. That was just like my little kid trick. Like I learned it like before I could even like maneuver my bike. It was just so easy to do, to just like pick my legs up and go over and do a Milfa can, rather than like a toboggan takes like some upper body strength. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate that because I fucking love a good toboggan. That's probably the second. But Milfa can was like the first go-to for me. So like, that's the one. If I got the least amount of time or the least amount of energy, that's the go-to.
Yeah, that's such a good trick too, man. Like, and you do them really well. You know, you really don't see them often done in the streets. And like, there's a clip you posted on your Instagram a while ago. I'll pull it up right now, where you did a no foot can out of this, like, you know, you drop into this chain link fence and then no foot can a stair set, and it was such a cool little clip. I absolutely loved that.
I appreciate that.
Let's see if I can find that. There we go. Yeah, and you're getting yelled at by some construction worker, it looks like.
Yeah, I had jumped into it once and just like rolled off the steps, and Vegan was filming, so he's just like, "You should do it now if I can." And I'm like, "All right, word, I could do that." And then the second I got back up there, this guy was like, "Hey, get down," and I was like, "Motherfuck!" I was like, "I already did it, man. Just like give me a break.
Yeah, you can see that you got your arms up. You're like, come on, man. Like, just give me a minute here.
Yeah, I'll be gone, dude. Don't get too worked up. And then what's funny is that we pulled around the corner and he still kept yelling at us. And I was like, "Are you gonna hop the fence?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Well, then just shut up, dude. Like, why?
Yeah,
Why? Don't even waste time."
just fuck off then, eh? I don't know why, man, but I feel like, people like that, they just don't have any power in their lives. And that, like, plays a big role into why they're yelling at people on bikes and skateboards, They don't have that, like, I don't know. It's.
You know what's the most annoying, man, is like when, in California especially, like people will come out and try to yell at you and you're like, "Hey man, like, don't worry, we're going to be gone." And they're like, "You were here yesterday." And you're like, "Dude, I'm not even from here. I've never been here." And they can't even tell the difference between you and the kids that were there yesterday.
Yeah,
And it exposes them right away to where you're like, "Hey, you're a dumbass. I'm just going to, like, fuck your opinion. I'm just going to do what we're going to do and we're going to leave."
I've had that happen before, but it has been that situation where I was there the day before. And I've just been like, no, that wasn't me. It definitely wasn't me. The guy had long hair. My hair is, in my hat. I don't have long hair. We're good.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm trying to picture the kids they had there the day before. I'm like, why are you mistaking me for, like, 13-year-olds, dude? Are you high? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, probably, eh? Oh, fuck. So, one of our top tier guests had a question for you. Sauce the Boss. He wants to know, how are you the only guy in BMX with good Tbogs?
Well, that's just too biased to answer.
See, I think that what you should do is shout out a couple people that have great Tbogs. Do you know anybody that has great Tbogs in BMX?
Great Tbogs, man. All right, here, I'll shout out. First, I want to shout out, here's my problem with people that have Tbogs, is that you got to tuck the knee. Tuck the fucking knee in. Because if you don't have the knee inside the elbow, and it might be a 5'6" thing. If you're taller than 5'6", it might not work. I don't even know. I don't live in that world. But Jeff Cadger has some tremendous Tbogs, but he'd be outside the knee. So Jeff Westcott has good Tbogs. Let's go Chris Doyle. Let's go Brett Silva, but he got that big bow knee, but he's got good ones. Daryl Taco's got them Tbogs.
Hell yeah, he does. Sean Sexton's got some pretty good hop Tbogs.
Ooh, Tony Cardona has the proper tuck knee, Tbog, Tafaki, everything you want.
Hell yeah.
Alex Kennedy does a lot of Tbogs, but he's also outside the elbow, bow-legged knee guy.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there.
He had a cover once where he had like a Tbog Tafaki where I was like, that's nothing. And I was like, that doesn't look good. And he got mad at me, or he like responded. I don't think he got that mad, but I commented. I was like, nah, that ain't it.
Fair enough.
That was the cover of a magazine. I was like, that's gross, dude.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I've always found with Tbogs, like, for tips out there for kids, like, for me, learning Tbogs, a good thing to remember is, like, grab the seat and pull up rather than, like, just turning the bar. Because when you grab the seat and pull it up, the bar kind of already just turns. Like, I don't know if you agree with that or if you think that looks ugly as fuck, but
I truly think that it's a commitment, just like a bar spin. Like, if you're going to throw the bars, you can throw the bars confidently and catch them good, or you can throw the bars and get scared, and it's going to look like, you understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, with a Tbog, you just have to commit to, like, you're going to do both. If you're going to grab the seat and push the bars, there's a clicking point, just like people say you can click a turn down or you can click an X up or anything like that. Like you can click a proper toboggan. And again, this might fall into the 5'6" gang, and tall people might not understand what I'm saying. But the second that you do a proper, your knee is inside your elbow, and you turn your bar, push it as far as you can, and then your wheel hits you in the ass, that's clicked. That's a Tbog, baby. And that's that. I mean, you could stretch it further if you're like, Brett Silva's like real tall. He fucking stretches them, but like his knee goes wicked west. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's just like a weird medium of like how you prefer it. But for me, I prefer not to like stick my knee out, and I click them in a sense to where like once I get tapped out with the tire in my butt, I fucking tweak my bars a little bit extra, maybe because I'm smaller and I can do that. But
exactly, because you're 5'6" gang.
People putting me out, and dude, and I don't like a really wide, like bow-legged Tbog. It just doesn't look good to me.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean, man. Tbogs are one of those tricks that like they're all about style, and like same with turn downs. And trust me, man, I don't want to be a cocky son of a bitch here, but you don't gotta tell me about click and turn downs. That's like my favorite trick. I fucking love to click that shit.
Dude, I can't click them anymore. My fucking left knee will not have it.
Oh fuck, eh?
No, it sucks. Like every time I try to like go past the, because I used to be, here's like a funny joke from Scotland. They used to call like 179. If like you didn't do like a click turn down, they'd be like 179, and they'd like yell it from the deck, and it would just mean that like you couldn't even get 180, Like,
oh, I love that. Shy. That's hilarious, actually.
Yeah, like you were just shy of clicking. So like, then like I brought that back to America, and like all my friends here were already like going past 180. So then they started making up their own thing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you got to get to this," and blah 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 blah. And like we used to just crank turn downs until you'd like buzz your knee, and like fucking see who could crank them the furthest. And like I didn't do a turn down for like so long, and I rode street for like 6 years, and like. My fucking left knee will not take it, dude. Like, what this? And also, you got to understand that how much the bikes change. And this is like contradict what I said earlier about geometry. But like when bars got bigger, I couldn't invert anymore. I had to do tables. And then when bars got bigger, I couldn't crank turn downs anymore. I just can't do it anymore.
Weird, eh? You'd think that,
dude,
like,
so weird.
You'd think that with bigger bars, it would be easier to kind of get it over your leg. I guess not, though. I ride pretty short bars. Like, I ride 875s with the top load right now with no spacers on the fork. So, like, it's a pretty, I don't know, any bike that I hop on, like, I feel like I'm standing straight up. And on my bike, I feel as if I'm, over top of it.
Yeah, I got a bike here that's like 8 1/4 maybe bars on it, and again, I rode it like the first day, and I was like, no, this thing sucks. And now I like jump on it and do a couple 180s a day, and I'm just like, oh, this feels right.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
I just get used to it, even though I know like it's gonna probably hurt my back a lot, but like. You're just like, now I figure out how to pull up on this. Like the first day I did a hop 3 on that bike, I was like, oh, fuck. And then now I got like dialed hop 3s on it, but my back is probably paying the price.
Fair enough, eh? Oh, fuck. So let's jump into more of these questions. So, Harvester Bikes wants to know about your best story from the Young and Retarded trip. That you guys took a few years ago?
Probably the Ghost of Shab.
Do you want to?
it's like a fictional ghost that we used to talk about at our house in Arizona. But people would get drunk and then kind of like fall victim to it. So Dylan Lloyd and Stephen Churchill like fully thought that they saw a ghost when they were at our house, and whether they did or not, I don't know. They could tell you the rest.
That's hilarious. Dylan Lloyd's he's kind of local to where we are, like just one province over, only 6 hour drive, but he is unfucking real, man. That guy is crazy. He posted this clip the other day of him doing like trying to do this fucking terrifying, sketchy, like, you know, fire escape rail, and like goes over the bars, over the side of the rail, like 15 feet onto his fucking head. Like, just terrifying clip. And it was an interesting story. You know, he posted this big caption about how that's how he got into, like, you know, bodybuilding and working out and doing all this stuff, because, like, the fact that he had just started doing that stuff may have saved his life there. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, dude, he's a good dude, man. I fucking enjoy hanging out with him. He stayed with us. I met him in Long Beach, like, a few years before Young and Retarded, but then at that time we like spent a whole week together, like filming and working on lines, and he stayed at my place, and you know, that's when you really get to like kind of figure somebody out. And that dude, fuck, man, if you go watch like the behind the scenes of Young and Retarded, it's on YouTube. You can find it very easily. One memory from that is also he got shot. He was like so drunk, like, you know, like one of you Canucks, and he just fucking wasted, getting shot in the back with a fucking pellet gun.
Jesus.
And he just goes, I didn't even feel it. Like total hockey player.
Yeah. Yeah, he's always giving me hockey player vibes.
He's like, did you even shoot me? And we're like, yeah, we shot you like 4 times. He's like, shoot me a gun. And we're like, okay.
Okay, we'll fucking keep going, I guess. Oh,
yeah, that's
fuck.
a fun one. That was like, that was kind of, you know, like the start of some of that YouTube play shit where we like made Young and Retarded. And I remember telling Adam, where I was like, hey, we should put out all this behind the scenes, you know, like it's easy. You just put it out. It's raw, like 14 minutes of raw footage. Like that was kind of a little bit of forward thinking, I think, that at that point.
That stuff actually is really cool, man. Like, you know, Sauce the Boss, he filmed the new All the Smoke video with on some shit. And dude, I gotta say, fucking, that was pretty cool. Like, the video itself is only about 15 minutes long, but there's like 6 hours of behind the scenes footage from everybody. And honestly, it was way cooler to just watch all the behind the scenes stuff. Like, no offense to Sauce, the actual video was incredible. I loved it. But that behind the scenes stuff, you can really, like, I don't know, it was just really cool to sit there and watch that. I watched every single, like, video that they did with that, too.
Right, yeah. I mean, it gives people a good insight into like what goes into that 7-minute edit, because, you know, Sauce probably spent like 4 days editing it, and he filmed it for like 9 days, and, you know, all compensation aside, I'm sure that has nothing to do with it. He probably would have done the same job regardless, but yeah, like those dudes, they fucking work their ass off, man. They work it, like they run into security and worrying about where the van's at, and like worrying about like their location, and like people thinking about where they're staying, or just getting like, if you get hot in the city, like you can get kicked the fuck out like real quick.
Oh yeah.
So like, just to think that when you watch the behind the scenes and you see how many tries it takes for somebody to just get one clip, and how we talked about that Puerto Rico video where it's like, dude, it could be at the same park. It could be at the exact, like, it could just be around the corner.
Yeah, like, exactly.
you never know, and they're just trying to get done. Like, you know, Ethan's trying to trick for an hour and a half, finally gets it, and Denham's like, hey, well, my clip's still like right there, like I'm gonna do it right now,
and then typically pulls it like second try. You know, Denham fucking full send and everything.
And if he doesn't, he's not gonna bow to fucking anybody. He's definitely gonna tell them to go fuck themselves.
Dude, I love Denham's attitude of just no fucks given. Like that dude, honestly, I literally would love to make a trip out to Huntington Beach just to hang out with those guys for a weekend, because the fun that I had with them on the podcast was just fucking hilarious, and like I could absolutely see myself getting along with those guys so well.
Oh yeah, and they'd probably all be in the same backyard together, just fucking all ripping.
Dude, when we were doing the show, fucking Sauce, the way that, like, you know, we had planned it out like a week beforehand. I tell him a time, and you know, it's 10 o'clock here, so it's 7 o'clock there. I send him a text. I'm like, hey man, I'm ready to go. Wait like 10 minutes, no message. Look at Denham's Snapchat, or not his Snapchat, his Instagram story, and they were fucking out jumping Eddie's old fucking car and just fucking that shit up. And then I guess that Denham had blown that car up, and that was their only way home. So then I get a call from Sauce like 10 minutes after that. It's like, hey man, sorry, my phone died. We found a phone charger. I'm hopping in an Uber. Let's start this podcast. So he's in an Uber doing a podcast with Denham Cox beside him and an Uber driver for like an hour. Their car is on some crazy fucking tow truck. Like, I don't know why that was so funny to me. But then, like, you know, after about an hour, they get home or whatever. Fucking Ethan rolls up and then starts telling us Sauce stories and about how Sauce like was fucking pissing at the bar while he's paying his tab. Like just fucking pulls his dick out and pisses all over the floor while he's paying his tab.
Dude, Sauce loves pulling that little thing out, dude.
Oh,
one time he burned his pubes in front of a bunch of people with a fucking blowtorch. Like savagely, like flesh. And you're like, yo, your pubes are gone. And he's just like, what? And you're like, dude, stop. Burning himself.
Shit. Yeah, Sauce is a fucking animal, man.
Oh, he goes for it.
They're
like the Trailer Park Boys. You know, you're from Canada. They're like the Trailer Park Boys of fucking SoCal.
Oh, absolutely. I love it, man. And then like during Ethan's podcast, fucking Sauce shows up at his house on like a dirt bike, you know, little tiny 110 fucking, and like you can hear Ethan and he's like, who the fuck is outside my house with a dirt bike? And like opens the blinds or whatever, and it's Sauce. Like, what the fuck is going on? I just love that. I'm like, I would love to just see what these dudes fucking get up to.
Oh yeah, they're a gas.
Oh man. So Eddie wanted me to tell you that you need to shout out 5-6 Gang. So how did 5-6 Gang come to be a thing? Is it literally just that all of you guys are 5'6" or what?
Well, basically, it starts off with like I'm 5'7", right? So I run the whole league.
There you go.
Yeah, and then I recruited Sauce and Eddie. So hopefully you can relate that message to him when you have him on next week. And if not, just play this little clip.
I think he's actually here in the live chat right now. Eddie, if you're still there, say what's up.
Yeah, Eddie, what do you got? Because you know I'm captain, baby.
Oh, fuck. So you recruited Eddie and Sauce.
It started with us just like all talking about us being the same height, and then I don't even know. I was like, my ID says 5'7", and everyone started saying 5'6", and like, you know, I kind of like went down to their level just to like make them feel like okay.
Yeah, just make them feel better about themselves, right? Like it's hard being a god already, so.
No, I just was like, hey, it's cool. You guys can't tell that I'm an inch taller than you. That's fine. The state of Illinois, which is full of shit, either way, I just basically had to make dominance a point.
Oh,
for this,
fuck.
Yeah, for this movement, and I'm the leader of 5'6" gang, and now I'm 5'6" too. So, hey, huh? Yeah, I'm 5'6".
There you go. Oh man, I fucking love that. So we got
I
enough.
can't wait to hear. I'm not gonna listen to Eddie's, but you're gonna have to cut a snippet out so I can hear about this retaliation. Because
I will. I'm gonna.
They might have a little beef with that, but at the same time, you know, like without me, it would just be, dude. It was all Sauce and Eddie were always there, boy. They didn't have 5'6" gang until I came around.
Dude, you should see Eddie in the fucking chat right now. He is pissed. I'll read out what he's saying to you.
Yeah, go for it.
Alrighty, so Eddie says he's capping. He's 5'6", not 5'7".
Dude, I'm 5'6". I just said that. I came down.
But are you actually 5'6" or are you actually 5'7", Tony? Let's be real here. You're probably 5'7".
Who's asking, Cam?
Oh, fuck. Oh, man. So, moving on from the great 5'6" gang, let's see here. Shane is wondering if you have any new plans for Gully Factory, and who has your favorite part in 535, or not 535, 1235, but it's not out yet. So, who has your favorite part in 1234?
But did they say 1235?
They said 1235.
Well, then they know what they're talking about. For the Gully Factory, we're going to do some clothes in May, actually, because right now, you know, like, I'm going to try to sell some stuff and try to make some money for the duplication of 1235. So when 1235 comes out, we can do some merch with that, and who knows, like, premieres are really up in the air right now, but it would be cool to do some premieres. But, wow, we might be shit out of luck with that.
Yeah, that's like...
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the hard thing about this year, man. Like, I had a ton of plans to be hosting a DIY jam in town, and, like, I always do jams every year, at least 2 of them. So, like, that was going to be a 3rd jam that I'd do this year, and I had a bunch of other plans, and, like, it really sucks that all that stuff is kind of, you know, off the table at the moment. Like, who knows, right? We might not even be able to do another jam for a year, like, realistically.
You going to bed? No, that's true.
But
how much longer? Oh, what are we at? We're at...
We are
20
at...
We're going to put us like 3 at most, right?
Yeah, I'm going to... Honestly, I've only got a couple more for you anyways, so probably like 10, 15 minutes if that's cool.
Perfect.
Cool. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're good. I get carried away repping.
Yeah, all good, man. So, did you have anything else you wanted to mention about Gully Factory?
No, I was just gonna say, if I had to choose a part in 1235, I'm really excited for Josh Eilkin to have a part. I think it's going to be his best part he's ever made. And he doesn't really ride much anymore. So it's going to be cool for people to see something that, like, you know, in nowadays, a lot of the youth, they see stuff and it's like with some intent to kind of like go further or get sponsored or do something. And like, this is just going to be a section that I hope just people can appreciate. Like, it's old. It was filmed within like the last 12 years. I don't think we've even filmed a fresh clip in the last 3 years. And it certainly still holds up. So it's pretty cool that I'm just happy for people to see it, and it sucks that we can't premiere it. That's kind of what we always wanted to do, and it's a shame that like it might come out during this time, but at the same time, we might still just be able to do a digital download and have more people see it. So it could be a bittersweet scenario.
Are you guys planning on doing a hard copy release at all?
That's always been the plan.
Hell yeah. Well, fucking put me down for a copy, man. I'll take one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would actually take. It doesn't take much in cost nowadays to do a DVD, and with direct sales and stuff, like we already have a web store, so like it could be a thing where maybe you even get a free DVD with like an online order. We haven't really figured it out yet, but it will be hopefully out by the end of the year, and I would say that 12 or JE's part will be Josh Allison's part will be probably one of the better ones of 1235.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for that, man. So let's do 2 more questions and we'll end it off. How's that sound?
Terrific.
Hell yeah. So what's the best flavor of Backwoods? I'm sure you'll know this.
Sweet aromatic.
And you know what sucks? In Canada, the rules on tobacco are so fucking weird. So like we don't actually get like a flavor thing. So, you know, everybody loves the purple pack, aka the honey berry Backwoods. Here, those are called the ports or the ruby port Backwoods. It's real strange that they do it that way.
Are the sweet aromatics, are those called like whiskey or what are they called?
I think they're called whiskey, yeah.
Yeah, I've been over there. I've bought in woods before where I'm just like, this is the same color. Like, why would they even do like multiple printing? Like, it just costs more money. Like, why wouldn't they? But, you know, I guess with the regulations and the tobacco and liquor and all that stuff, it's so like, they got to be so to the T on it.
Yeah, it's real weird. Like, I don't even know what the logistics are about me, like, having my own brand of rolling papers and selling them through, like, my website. But I've just been checking people's ID. Like, you know, if you're 19 plus, then sure, buy them. Like, my main thing is I just don't want, like, a parent to fucking have their kid, like, end up with these, you know? Like, I feel like that would fucking do so bad. But
when technically, like, do you really have to? Because, like, is it even technically a smoking product?
Yeah. In Canada, it's real weird. Like, you can't even go to a fucking hardware store and buy a lighter without ID if you're not, like, of age, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's the same here. You can't go to, like, a gas station and get fucking a lighter or anything like that either.
Yeah, same with, like, you know, rolling papers because it's, like, a smoking device, which is, like, kind of weird, you know? But I get it.
What about condoms?
What were you saying?
What about condoms?
Condoms are fine. You're able to get those at any age, I guess. I mean, I never had an issue, but
is that right in Canada?
Yeah, any age.
Huh. I wonder how it is here in America, seeing as how I'm an adult now. But when I was younger, they'd be like, "How old are you?" And you'd be like, "What does it matter, man? I'm trying to fuck. Like, would you rather me fuck without them?"
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the whole thing in Canada, right? Like, our high schools fucking give them out for free. Like, I went to a boarding school for 2 years, and they just fucking gave you a bunch of them. Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah. Go Canada.
There you go, man. Oh, fuck. So, I have 2 more questions and that's it. How's that sound? I know I said I had 2 before, but so what's it like working for No Jumper?
It was quite nice. I think I did about 6 or 7 months. I relieved duties essentially. Me and Adam kind of what I feel like was consensually parted ways just before this crazy pandemic. So I enjoyed my time there, but I'm no longer with them.
Oh, sorry, man. I didn't know.
No, that's fine.
That's cool, though. Like, you know, I feel like with No Jumper, you listen to a lot of, like, the music that they promote and whatnot, too, right? So I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it wasn't really quite like the music thing. It just, in terms of like the media or however I want to
Right.
just invest my time, I was just kind of getting to a point where a lot of like passion projects were getting put on the wayside, and then I couldn't, I couldn't do like freelance projects, and everything just got real backed up because of their urgency of media.
Yeah.
And then I guess that was mainly like where things got balled up, because even after that, like I was put in a position to where I was not only creating but directing, consulting, and training other people. I mean, it got pretty hectic real quick, and as the pressure built up, I was just like, I'm not really enjoying it, and this is too much. So that's kind of like where it got left off, and I feel like it was very mutual. So, I mean, people can expect me and Adam to work together, but that system ended.
Yeah, fair enough. And I gotta say, man, this has been awesome. This has been a lot of fun. Really good talking with you. And there's one last question for you. And I think that, because right now everybody's kind of stuck in their house, and Sauce told me that you're quite the movie guy. So do you have 3 movies that somebody should check out if they're stuck at home right now?
Oh yeah, that's easy. Number 1, anybody who knows me know what's coming. You got to watch RoboCop, the original. I'm waiting for your response.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I would know.
What do you think? I mean, have you seen it?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm really not a movie guy, but I've been meaning to fucking get into it. I don't know why. I feel like mainly because like in my teenage years, I just rode constantly, and then like before that, I don't know. We just never really watched television much. But we've got. I'll have to check that out.
All right, I understand that. Let me elaborate.
For sure.
RoboCop is a 1987, like, I mean, I wouldn't really call it an action film as much as I'd call it a sci-fi film. So, it's based in Detroit in a time where people probably won't even understand this. Like, younger kids probably won't even understand that. Like, Detroit at one point was like the mecca of like car manufacturing in America.
Yeah, it was huge. It was like literally one of the most booming businesses in America, correct?
Correct. So as it like fell apart, they kind of like predicted. It's weird because this film takes place in 1987, it was made in 1987. It takes place in like 2017. It's a sci-fi movie. So RoboCop is essentially trying to predict like 3 years ago from now. And I think that a lot of people misconcepted it because they watched it when it was on like TV and it was censored. But the movie is fucking hardcore as fuck. And there's a lot of blood, and there's a lot of money, and there's coke, and there's just like, it's a savage movie about Detroit once it's been beaten down, and they have to bring in like a cyborg cop. So go watch RoboCop. That's number 1.
Hell yeah, I will fucking definitely do that. Yeah, dude, obviously I've heard of it, and like I feel so dumb because I haven't watched it yet, and like I have heard great things, obviously,
Absolutely. Okay, so number 2 for Sauce the Boss here, and fucking everybody else who fucking cares. Today, me and my brother watched The Lighthouse, which, hey, you know what? I don't really have too much to go in on that, but it's fucking weird, and it's relevant, new, and it's good. So that's number 2. For a third film during this quarantine time. Fuck.
Well, you think of that, I'll give my opinion on a TV show that I
Go.
was a really big fan of. So,
A TV show.
yeah, so a show that I really liked that only unfortunately had one season was Son of Zorn. Have you ever heard of that show?
Nah.
So Son of Zorn, the way that it is that Zorn is from like this place called Zephyria, but then he moves to Orange County so that he can like spend time with his son. So it's half animation, half fucking like real like, sitcom style filming. It's so weird, but it has it's fuck, how am I forgetting his name right now? It has Johnny Pemberton as the son. It's a really good show. Like it sucks that it only had one season, but that's like my favorite show.
Well, now that we're on shows, and I don't know if Sauce is still listening, but everybody should go watch Real Bros of Simi Valley.
Hell yeah.
You ever heard of that?
No, actually. What's that about?
Hysterical. It's just like this fucking weird YouTuber guy that started to write a show, but it's about like essentially people from like Riverside, California, and it's nearly spot on.
Hell yeah. Fuck, that's
Yeah.
cool, man. Well,
Look it up. Real Bros of Simi Valley.
Sweet, I will. Fuck, man, this has been awesome. We just passed 3.5 hours here, so I think we'll. Oh, sorry, 2.5 hours, not 3.5. We'll end it off here if that's cool with you.
Absolutely.
Dude, I gotta say again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been awesome. I'm gonna hit you up for your address after this. Like, just send me a text, and I'm gonna send you some of my merch. So, dude, thank you again.
Cool. Likewise, man. I'll send you a Gully Factory shirt. No problem.
Fuck yeah, dope. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Go to our web store and pick up some merch. Help support the show. So, keep getting these awesome episodes with even better guests. Tony, again, thanks. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thanks, Cam.
Have a good one, man.
You too, brother.